Mr. President, members of the Security Council, the Gaza famine is here. An engineered famine, a predicted famine, a man-made famine. As we speak, children in Gaza are systematically being starved to death. This is a deliberate policy. This is starvation as a method of war in its starkest terms. So the children's clinics in Gaza are overwhelmed by need, every bench packed with malnourished children and their mothers. Yet our clinics are almost silent now. Children do not have the strength to speak or even cry out in agony. They lie there, emaciated, quite literally wasting away. Their tiny bodies overcome by hunger and disease. The medical and specialized nutrition supplies they need all but used up. Without these, malnourished children will die. A few kilometers away stand ready a sea of supplies. Thousands upon thousands of truckloads of life-saving items, all blocked. The government of Israel could end this famine tonight if it choose to, and then end its deliberate obstruction and let humanitarians do our work. Instead, there are reports of escalation in Israeli military activity in Gaza City, more attacks on hospitals, more killing. Mr. President, at our child-friendly spaces, children draw what we call wishing clouds so that they can imagine a better future. In Gaza, children used to wish for school or peace or to see their friends again. Once the total siege began in March, children would increasingly tell us that they wish for food, that they wish for bread. These past few weeks, more and more children have shared that they wish to be dead. One child wrote, "I wish I was in heaven where my mother is. In heaven there is love, there is food and water." Children are being killed in Gaza by bombs, bullets, and now starvation. An entire generation at risk of being wiped out. Every decision maker in every capital in the world, everyone in this room, has a legal and moral responsibility to act to stop these atrocities. Famine means that there are no more breaking points and no more alarm bells. It is the worst case scenario. We told you this was coming, loudly and clearly. It has been constructed by design for 2 years. Famine is a technical term. It is determined by an independent, globally respected body known as the IPC. When there is not enough food, children become acutely malnourished and then they die, slowly and painfully. This, in simple terms, is what famine is. By measuring a child's weight related to their height and their upper arm to assess the amount of body fat and muscle they have left, we can objectively measure in real time the slow descent into the horror of starvation. The lives of at least 132,000 children under the age of 5 in Gaza are now at risk of acute malnutrition. This number has doubled since May 2025. Every other indicator confirms the IPC's assessment. In the first 2 weeks of August, well over half of pregnant women and new mothers screened at Save the Children's clinics were malnourished, 7 times higher than before the siege began in March. We have since run out of the supplement designed to prevent pregnant women and new mothers becoming malnourished. Mr. President, this is the predictable results of a policy of a sustained siege on food, medicine, and fuel. This month, over 100 aid organizations called for an end to the weaponization of aid in Gaza. These NGOs have worked in the occupied Palestinian territories for decades and are trusted and experienced. Israeli authorities have rejected requests from dozens of NGOs to bring in life-saving goods to Gaza and have tied continuous operations to new registration rules. These registration rules require impartial humanitarian actors to take actions that are unlawful, unsafe, and incompatible with humanitarian principles. The result is a further obstruction to unhindered, principled humanitarian access. Children in Gaza do not need so-called creative solutions, not airdrops that deliver almost no aid while occasionally hitting and killing civilians, nor creating inhumane militarized distribution systems where hundreds of civilians have been killed seeking food, forcing those who survive to choose between being maimed and humiliated, collecting scraps of food, or watching their loved ones waste away before their eyes. Families we support increasingly refer to these distribution points as the jaw of death. Instead, children in Gaza need member states to take action. The endless violence, cruel and illegal siege, block on the UN-led humanitarian system, mass killing of humanitarian workers, ban on UNRWA, and obstruction and threats of deregistration against NGOs are driving the humanitarian catastrophe, which in its turn is causing famine. Independent entities mandated to conclude and determine whether atrocity crimes and war crimes are taking place have done so. In addition, grave violations against children are being committed at an unprecedented rate across the occupied Palestinian territory, according to the Secretary General's annual report. The overwhelming majority were perpetrated against Palestinian children, though there are violations against Israeli children too, including children being taken hostage. Every child has the right to survival, to safety, and to a future. Any violation is a breach too far. Violence in the West Bank have been escalating at an alarming rate. Children face home demolitions, displacement, harassment, and intimidation by Israeli forces and settlers, including on the way to and during school. The mental health toll this has on their still forming minds is devastating. Save the Children is particularly alarmed by the detention of Palestinian children in the Israeli military detention system, which is a long-standing child rights crisis. No child should ever come in contact with a military court. Yet Palestinian children are the only ones in the world who are systematically prosecuted in military courts. These courts do not meet international juvenile justice standards. It is an abusive, inhumane system where children consistently report being physically, emotionally, and sexually abused, humiliated, and starved. Children held in this system must be released immediately to prevent further harm and protect them from practices that could amount to torture. The military detention of Palestinian children must end. There must be accountability for all crimes committed against children, against civilians, and hostages. Mr. President, children in Gaza urgently need the following: an immediate and definite ceasefire and the release of all children deprived of their liberty, including hostages and children held in military detention. The government of Israel must lift the siege and let the aid flow. The only way to achieve this is through unimpeded UN-led coordination. Member states must take action, support accountability mechanisms, end armed transfers, refuse to fund militarized aid schemes, do not risk complicity in atrocities. Members of the Security Council, I would like to conclude by explaining briefly what malnourishment and starvation means for a child. After one day without food, children begin to change. They suffer a loss of energy, concentration, and become upset. After several days without nourishment, their body starts to degrade. Their bodies begin consuming their own fat to survive. They lose their appetite and become unable to focus. After 2 weeks, the process accelerates and their small bodies rapidly deteriorate. Heart, liver, kidneys weaken, infections spread with ease as their immune system collapses. They become vulnerable to diarrhea, pneumonia, sepsis. At this stage, there is no fat left, so the body begins to literally consume itself, slowly, painfully eating the muscles and other vital organs. Belly swell and skin becomes fragile. At 3 weeks, the process of starvation has reached its final catastrophic phase. Children get lesions on their eyes and they go blind. Their hair fall out, organs shut down. Unable to move or speak or cry out, they draw their last breath. Those who do get urgent nutrition and medical support often grow up stunted. A stunted child will likely have impaired cognitive development, a weakened immune system, and increased risk of chronic diseases. Babies born to malnourished mothers are likely to be forever smaller themselves. Many effects of famine cannot be reversed. The death and loss, the physical and mental harm will last lifetime and even generations. In the words of a nutrition nurse who works in one of our silent clinics, she said, "Hunger is written on the bodies of our children, a constant reminder that survival itself has become uncertain in Gaza." For almost 2 years, the international community has failed to protect Palestinian children. Until you choose to act, this is the fate you are guaranteeing a generation of children in Gaza. Inaction is a choice. Indecision is complicity. Children have reached their breaking points. Where is yours? Thank you.
I thank Ms. Ashing for her briefing. I now give the floor to Ms. Ilana Gritsevsky.